That's the whole point. It's not, it's rare, it rarely is. That's why it has to keep coming, right? You keep doing it to get it right. I mean, that's really what I think it's about. It's when I listen to if I listen to our first record, let alone the first record I ever made, which is like somewhere in the 80s, God knows. But like if I listen to even the first Negro Problem record from 97, I was an adult, I was a grown man. I'd played all kinds of music. I cringe sometimes because, the lyrics are so horrible and I thought I was nailing something and I wasn't. No, I think it's constant. I think we don't need to feel like anything's accurate, really. I think we have to do it and then go, ooh, look, this is where I was then, and I also think what's more important than accuracy is that it sound good and that it read well and that it's kind of beautiful even, a big struggle I have in some of the teaching I do is people come in with work that reflects their pain. And it's a very hard thing to tell someone that this reflection of your pain is only reflecting your pain. If that's what you wanted to do, you've nailed it. If you wanted to move me beyond the acknowledgement of your pain, then you need to work on it. Do you know what I mean? And to me, that's why I like a lot of old dead white men. I like a lot of old dead black men too, and black women and white women and dead people and alive. I love them all. But I will always defend my right, despite the fact that he was an anti-Semite and a fascist and a horrible person. T.S. Eliot, still, to me, he's a natural-born singer. When he was 5 years old, he used to come up to his mom and say, I just wrote this poem. And she would say, okay, how does it go? And he would go, da-da, 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 da-da. He was writing rhythms before he even knew how to write words, And that's why his stuff is so beautiful, because he's a singer. Horrible man, right? You wouldn't want to have dinner with him. Or I hope you wouldn't. But when I found out that Eliot, this man who had crafted this, to me still, the most beautiful poetry in the English language for me, was a horrible man, it kind of traumatized me. I mean, it freaked me out because, again, I grew up thinking all artists were like John Lennon and nice guys and wanted the world to be a better place. And I couldn't figure it out. How can you be an anti-Semite and be an artist? How can you have such horrible thoughts about people and create beauty, But it's a complicated business. Do you know what I mean? It's really complicated. But I think beauty is important. Beauty and humor are how we trick people into receiving what we're really trying to say. If we just say, it hurts. Maybe if you're John Lennon, you can get away with that, but I don't, But if you can lure them in and get them right there, what is he going to say next? And then when they're really listening, go, it hurts. That's going to blow their mind. But you got to, you know what I mean? And I don't mean like it's got to be like pop. I don't mean like pop. I just mean like art has to be, to me, kind of seductive in some way. Not even has to be. It just is. What makes us want to listen? We want to know what's going to happen next. We don't want to know what they're going to say next. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about accuracy. I would just worry about it being beautiful. And that you like it. Oh, probably just coincidence. I mean, I'm not a big fan of The Wall, but I love Pink Floyd before pretty much The Wall. I mean, I love Pink Floyd a lot. And yeah, no, not intentionally, but who knows? I mean, it's all, influence operates in such a weird way, it operates in a way that I don't think many of us understand even, myself included, I hear stuff that I do and that other people do, and it's kind of weird how you suddenly go like, I was helping some guy in New York make a rap record once, and this guy was rapping, and it sounded like, it was like I was in New York, it was 1983 or something, or 4, and he was rapping. And the engineer said to this guy's a black guy from Queens who was rapping, and the engineer goes, do you listen to Lou Reed? And the black cat was like, yeah. And it was like, he could hear the Lou Reed and this like black guy from Queens who was trying to be Run DMC because it was 1983, you know what I mean? And we were just so, we would listen and go, wow, he's right, you know, it's like in there, but like, you know, and who would have thought, you know, because back then nobody knew that black people played rock music or whatever, or listened to rock music, so it was like, wow, a black guy from Queens who listened to Lou Reed, but he had actually was like a real big Lou Reed fan, but we didn't hear it. So yeah, influence is like, I'm sure. I love Pink Floyd, you know. So you're right, in other words. Even if the particular album isn't
Stu's
the
going
run.
to use that from now on. He's going to say that. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Right, but I think that's that light and dark that we talked about, you know, that's that, I mean, we were completely, like, I can't tell you how, like, the whole Obama thing, when we were there, how it was such a part of our thing. I mean, we never even talked about it in an on-the-nose way, but everybody was just kind of, like, the white guy, the white piano player in the band was, like, the most hardcore Obama, spurning, you know, like he was just like, he would give us like literally like minute by minute like updates on everything that was happening in the Obama campaign in every state, you know what I mean? Like after the show, you know, we'd be like having dinner and having a drink. And so like we were all like, you know, of course we were all like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if he could come to the musical, right? But of course, when you're running for president, you cannot come to a play that has unapologetic drug use. You can't. You can't. We found that out, that, you know, you gotta go to Wicked. Really? We know someone from his advance team. We know somebody from his advance team. We know someone from his advance team who said they handpick the plays that he and Michelle go to. And he could not go to Passing Strange, despite the fact that, you know, he's a fan of Spike Lee and da-da-da, none of that mattered. You can't, president can't be in the audience. But yeah, so we were, I think, infused and informed by that spirit completely. And I think that the play, even him, I mean, a lot of people in New York were writing about the fact that, you know, he's this black guy who's been all these different places and had this different, so there were a lot of like really interesting parallels, you know. And the pessimistic thing that I wrote for The Voice was just what was the other side of that, which is what I knew to be true. I had a grandfather who lived in a little area in Kansas, and he was the only black guy there. He was a farmer, and he was much beloved, whatever the word is. And I had been with those, you know, those 7'1" black women teachers that I was telling you about. They had taught us that, well, you know, things were fucked up back then, right? So I was like going like, I told my mom, like, how did the grandfather live back then in the middle of this kind of like, you know, very white situation way back when my teachers are telling me that back then things were really tough? And my mom said, well, he was the only one. That's why everything was cool. And he used to always say, let one more come in, one more black farmer come in, then we're gonna have an issue. But as long as he was the only black farmer, he was in like Flint, as we used to say, right? So I just knew from growing up that all those people at those truck stops, once they really woke up and were like, we really did this? This is really happening, you know? I mean, I think it's like actually the kind of spring cleaning that, you know, I don't mind reality. What is happening with Obama is just reality. We need to know that you know, and it's so American, right, to go like, as soon as he got elected, all the Europeans were like, the Americans are going crazy, but, you know, soon, you know, they're going to have to wake up to the fact that politics still exists. But we were all just like, so like, woo, you know, which is very us, you know, to just like jump into the celebration without really thinking that there are other people who wake up every morning going, we have a Negro problem, you know? Someone asked me, what's the problem? I'm like, what's your problem? I mean, like, you don't think that there are people in this country that wake up and going, oh my God, the Negro problem, it's still here, you know? We have a Negro problem in the White House for a lot of people, you know? We just do, and that's a fact. And I'm not getting all political, folks. I'm just a songwriter, you know? I have nothing interesting to say about politics. Listen to Bono, not me. But that was an easy call. That wasn't any kind of prophetic call. That was an easy call to make.
Yes, in the jacket.
That's a really great question. I see myself as getting farther and farther away from whatever the music business is because I think I'm too old to like really get a grip. If you ask my 18-year-old, she'd have a whole bunch of answers because she's totally in touch with everything. I think that the reason why we're on the road now is that I think that the only thing that the internet cannot change is the experience of a person on stage sweating, playing music for you. You know, I think that's the only thing. When we can recreate that on a laptop, you know, a sweat application, I Sweat, where the sweat comes from the screen. You're watching, you know, some Albert King play blues, and then the sweat comes from the screen. Then maybe, you know, yeah, I have to admit that I'm kind of out of it, really. I mean, I'm really so glad I have an 18-year-old because every time I hang out with her in her room, she shows me all the stuff that's going on. You know, I think the way music has changed for me is that people used to define their lives by it. And maybe people are defining their lives by Lady Gaga now. I don't know. I don't know them. But when I have this conversation, I really, when I was teaching at California Institute of the Arts, we had this day-long argument where literally class was over and my students, like half of them stayed, and we argued about the meaning of music for me versus all of them and their parents. And some guy finally nailed it. He said, one of my students said, it was different for you guys because it meant more to you guys. He said, he looked at me and he goes, do you really expect us to feel the same way about like Matchbox 20 that you felt about Jimi Hendrix? And I was like, he just stopped me in my tracks. Because we were trying to figure out like, what's wrong, you know? And it was like, he's just like, no, it was just different. There was no way. The world seemed to be changing. And this art seemed to be telling us something about those changes. So, I mean, when Lady Gaga changes her costume, I think most of us look at it like, that's a fashion choice for me to make in the next 2 weeks if I want to go out and have fun. But when the Beatles grew mustaches, that was like really saying to a lot of people, you're men now, you know? When the Beatles made a video that looked psychedelic, people were going, oh my God, I want to figure out what that is now. Do you know what I mean? Or when Sly Stone sang a song that said there's a riot going on, and it was like actually a silence, right? That meant something, you know? He's talking about a riot, like in 1968 or 69. The song is called There's a Riot Going On, and then there's silence. Like, what is that, you know? So, I mean, I think music was just engaged more. And the thing is, what I hate to be more than anything, what I hate to be is the old guy who's dissing what's modern. I hate to be that. I have a daughter, thankfully, who kind of keeps me up to date. I don't want to be that, because I think there's actually something great about what's happening right now. I just don't know what the fuck it is. I need you to tell me, you know what I mean? Because really, I'm looking at my daughter all the time, and I'm like, just tell me what is happening. And you know, she does here and there. She lives in Berlin, so she's really into, besides a lot of old music, she's into some like modern techno and stuff, and she explains to me all the variations of techno. It all sounds the same to me, and I sound like an 89-year-old man. The techno. You know you're old when you start putting the in front of genres? Like I used to laugh at my dad would be like, the rock and roll, I just don't understand it. I'm like, Dad, I don't say the jazz, you know, but he's like, the rock and roll, and now I'm going, the techno, I just don't understand. Can you tell me how this is different? House, whose house? You know, I mean, I don't understand. You know, where do you live? I don't know. I mean, but I don't want to be that guy, you know, that's like that old guy. I want to know why it's cool. And then that's why I like to teach, because I want people telling me what's cool. Because going back to my friend Elliot, you know, he said, what is modern is classical. So somewhere right now, some of this shit we're listening to on the Top 40 is classic music. It is. You don't look like you believe that right now, right? You don't look like you believe it. You're kind of, yeah. But I don't know if I believe it either. But how could now be any different than before? Although when I do listen to 80s flashback stuff, sometimes I'm kind of like, God, was that all there is? You know, I don't know. But I mean, I'm trying to stay in touch. But I think music had to do with people's lives back then. And I think now, it's more like just something you listen to when you want to have fun.